What's up, everyone? Inside the ropes. It is late at night or early in the morning, depending on how you fucking look at things. And a little bit late to the party on this one, a couple days late. But we're going to talk Mikey, Garcia, Adrien, Broner. We're going to talk Jamal Charlo and Jorge Sebastian. I think that's his first name. I might be forgetting it here. And we'll even throw in a little bit of the UFC real quick. So we'll start with the UFC. This past weekend, you had the big rematch with Jones and Cormier. And, you know, I might be in the minority here a little bit, but I happen to be a very big Daniel Cormier supporter. I think the guy's done nothing but take big fights his whole career. He's never backed down from a challenge. He's always put on good performances. He's always shown up for the fight. The only guy he hasn't been able to beat is Jon Jones, and unfortunately that trend continued. You know, Jones landed a head kick in the third round, and for the first time I can remember, Daniel Cormier was really rocked. I mean, he was out of it, and it showed when they showed him after the knockout a little bit. They had the camera on him for a minute. He was definitely out of it, staggering around, didn't know where he was. According to Dana White, didn't even know what the hell had happened, that he had been knocked out. You know, they had to explain to him and show him on the big screen what had happened. So, you know, a rough night for DC, man. Jon Jones, though, it's a redemption story in a lot of ways. You know, all his personal problems, none of them in the octagon. Everything outside the octagon. In the octagon, the man has done nothing but show us how great he is. Outside the octagon, however, he's done nothing but show us problems over the past few years. So the question is now, as fight fans, do we trust Jon Jones again? Do we believe that Jon's going to stay around and give us the quality fights that we've come to expect from him? Or will his personal problems leak back into things? He says he's gotten his life straightened out, he's back on the straight and narrow, he's doing the right thing. Everybody deserves a second chance in life, but not everybody gets one. Jon Jones is getting one here, so hopefully he takes it seriously, and you know, we get to see the best of Jon Jones, because there are boundless opportunities out there for big fights with Jon Jones' names attached to it, because he's just that good. Also, this pretty much puts that rivalry to bed, though. Even Cormier said it. You know, there's no rivalry when you drop 2-0 to a guy, and especially off a knockout. That pretty much ends the rivalry. So Jones just goes catapulting from here. You know, who knows what's next? He called out Brock Lesnar, which is insanity, but it's something I'd fucking love to see. You know, Brock's a big dude, man. He's a monster. He gets his hands on Jon. It could be a long night, but everywhere else in that kind of fight, Jon Jones has the advantage. Skill, technique, striking, speed. All fights start on the feet, and Jon's going to have a huge advantage in that area if this fight ever gets made. Obviously, it's just a rumor right now. It's them trading barbs. Although, word has gotten back that Lesnar did put his name into the USADA thing. In other words, he's trying to get clearance to fight again after his previous suspension with whatever illegal substance was in his system during the drug testing. It would be a huge fight money-wise, and I know the UFC would love to see it happen because it would be a huge draw. This fight could go in a million different ways, but I know one thing: if this fight goes to the ground, Jon Jones is in for a painful night, because that's a big man to have on top of you. If I was Jones, I would really try to work out some kind of weight limit restriction. Even if you make it like a 250 thing, where Brock has to drop a decent amount of weight to get in there. Because right now, the only chance he's going to have is really using his lateral movement and his striking ability to keep Brock Lesnar at bay. But we all know Brock's going to come across the ring like a freight train, willing to walk through anything just to get his hands on him and get him to the ground. For Daniel Cormier, the question is, what's next? You know, you can't beat the guy who's number one. He's already admitted to having problem making the 205 weight limit. So maybe we see him return to heavyweight, or maybe he retires. Who knows, man? 38 years old. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He's not a kid, you know. Hopefully for DC, whatever's in the future, it's all good things, because I know some fans don't care for him, but to me, DC's done nothing but represent the sport of MMA at the highest levels. He's been a great ambassador, and he's put on great fights. So I hope whatever the future holds for him, it's nothing but good things. Also on that card, we finally saw Chris Cyborg, become a UFC champion. This is the best female MMA fighter in the world, in a lot of our opinions. And she has been for a long time. And yet somehow she's not been a UFC champ. She's been in the UFC now a few years, and a title eluded her. Now finally, she has it. And it solidifies her standing as the best female in the sport. Plain and simple. I don't think there's any discussion for it. You know, obviously the Ronda thing is out the window now. The Miesha Tate discussion doesn't exist anymore. The other females in the UFC, hey, listen, you think you're good enough to beat Cyborg? I would love to see you step up and fight her. All I've seen is girls avoiding her. And hats off to Tanya Evinger, because she is one tough chick, man. She was overmatched, and she got the hell beat out of her, but she stood in there, man, and she fought her ass off. We also had the Snorefest, Tyron Woodley and Damian Maia, and it was, man, when you set a UFC record for the fewest strikes ever thrown, not landed, mind you, thrown. They threw like 60 punches combined. What the hell is that? You know what? Woodley said, oh, you know, he'll do it, and Dana can say whatever he wants. Listen, Mr. Woodley, I hate to fucking break the news to you here, but the fans pay your salary. Dana White pays you based on what the fans bring him. Fans don't want to see you because you're boring, which I don't understand, because physically speaking, you are probably the most talented and gifted competitor in the octagon next to John Jones right now. You know, like, physically speaking, Tyron Woodley is a freak. Go watch his workout videos and stuff. The dude is insane. We've seen his hand abilities. We've seen what he can do. But it's almost like he goes in there with a game plan of stopping his opponent's strength, which is smart, but no game plan of implementing his own offense. It's just shut your offense down, make you look like shit, and then work in a couple things here and there so he can make sure he walks out with the win. Now, yes, he kept the title, and yes, he will go on as champ, and he will face whoever's next in line, but this doesn't make fans want to see you. And he made comments after the fight about, you know, the fact that Dana said that GSP will fight Michael Bisping because he knows Michael will show up to fight, that it's going to be a fight. And Woodley said, you know, all I've done is fight number one contender after number one contender. Has Michael done that yet? Has he done that yet? You know, all I'll do is just keep proving that I'm the greatest welterweight champion ever. Listen, Dana White's not going to put you in there with GSP because it's not going to draw fans. You did this to yourself, plain and simple. Dana's going to make the matches that make the most money, that fans want to see. Fans don't want to see you standing there staring at GSP waiting for him to do something. I don't want to see that. You're too talented for this. So maybe, just maybe, you should think about pushing things up a bit, and then you'll get the big fight you've been asking for. To me, my favorite fight of the night was Robbie Lawler versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Robbie came out early looking to take Cowboy's head off, man, and that's what Robbie does, you know. Robbie Lawler's never been anything but what he is, and man, I am one of the biggest Robbie Lawler fans on the fucking planet, because Robbie comes out there with one objective: to take your head clean off your fucking shoulders. Plain and simple. Cowboy Cerrone's always been a tough dude, always been in there, he's always in good fights, you know. He's had a few bad ones where he's gotten annihilated by better fighters, but for the most part, Cowboy's always been that guy that if you slate him into a fight next to another good fighter, you're going to get a great fight. And that's what we got. We got 3 rounds of non-stop warfare. And at the end, Robbie Lawler won the decision. You know, Dana said maybe we get Robbie, Tyron Woodley, the rematch. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what happens. That's really all I'm going to talk about with the UFC card. I didn't really watch too many of the preliminary fights or anything. I didn't really pick it up until the Robbie Lawler fight and stuff like that. So we're going to move on. And now we go to what was the big hype fight for boxing this weekend. The card. The card started with Jermall Charlo vacating his title at 154, moving up to 160 at middleweight, facing Jorge Sebastian. Right away, two things were very clear to me. Number one, Charlo's skill level was on a different planet than Sebastian's. And number two, something was wrong with Sebastian's legs. I mean, if you watched the fight closely and you saw the way he was moving, there was definitely something not right. I mean, he was almost walking as if he couldn't bend his one knee. It was weird. And he became target practice for an already extremely skilled, extremely athletic Jermall Charlo. And it just became easy pickings. And I was watching the fight going, man, if this is the best he can move right now, he's in a lot of trouble, because Jermall was just teeing off. It was target practice, really. And, you know, listen, like Paulie Malignaggi said, we don't know what goes on in a fighter's personal life. We don't know what their situations are like. So a lot of people will say that if Sebastian was injured heading into the fight, which, according to the Athletic Commission, they said that they saw Sebastian with tape on his leg. He told them it was for luck, that he wasn't injured. They put him through a test, they put him through a full physical workup and everything, and cleared him to fight. We don't know what's going on in the fighter's personal life. So if he was injured and he took the fight anyways, a lot of people are saying he shouldn't have. Listen, man, fighters got to put food on the table. And when you're not a top-level fighter, opportunities to make good money don't come along that often. And I can only assume that fighting Jermall Charlo in an eliminator fight to determine who was going to be the next in line for a title shot on an Adrien Broner, Mikey Garcia undercard was an opportunity for a decent payday. Maybe not, millions of dollars, but a decent payday to a guy who probably really hasn't seen that many yet in boxing. So yeah, he went ahead, he pushed forward, and he fought. Who I peg on right now, and who I think should have done a better job in this situation, is his corner. You're his team. You knew he was injured going into the fight. He's getting picked off left and right with big shots. I mean, it was hard watching it. His team should have turned to him and said, listen, obviously you're not 100%. After 2 rounds of it, they should have said, you're not 100%. You're getting beat on. Listen, we're stopping the fight. Live to fight another day. You'll still be in the top 10. You were, going into this fight, you were a mandatory for the title anyways. So obviously, you were good enough to get into that position. What I saw that night was just incredible. He could barely move, and he was just taking a beating the whole night. Taking nothing away from Jermall Charlo, though, because he did exactly what he needed to do, moving up from 154 to 160 to make a statement. And that was go in there, and no matter what condition the fighter was in across from him, put on a show, get the finish, look dominant, and send a message to the other middleweights in the division saying, I'm here now. And the other middleweights in the division, obviously we're talking about Gennady Golovkin, we're talking about Canelo Alvarez, we're even talking about Danny Jacobs, Kid Chocolate Peter Quillen, if he ever fucking comes back. We haven't seen him since Jacobs knocked him out, so I don't know what's going on with him. This definitely is something that was needed in the middleweight division, because aside from Gennady at the top, and then, the Canelo fight, which is something everybody's waiting on, and I'm definitely looking forward to it, and then Danny Jacobs as a wild card, there's not a lot of guys in that middleweight division that we all look at and go, man, I want to see him fight Gennady. I would love to see a Jermall Charlo versus Gennady-Golovkin fight. And he is now next in line for one of the titles that Gennady holds. Whether or not he's going to wait around for that, or if he's going to take another fight, maybe he takes a fight with Danny Jacobs. They're both sitting there looking for a fight right now. Maybe they sign and they go in there and fight, and the winner of that gets the winner of Canelo and Golovkin. I don't know. All I know is what I saw Saturday night from Jamal Charlo told me that man is good enough to hang in there. He's skilled enough. He's athletic enough. He's carried up enough power with him. He's going to be an interesting fight for anybody at middleweight. So, have to wait and see where he goes from there. Now we move into the main event of the night, and that was a very talked about fight, a fight that I personally was really looking forward to, and that was Mikey Garcia against Adrien the Problem Broner, AB, about billions, whatever the hell you want to call him. Listen, from the first round of this fight, I knew. Now going into the fight, I had it 50-50 either way. I knew Mikey was the consistent guy, the guy who showed up every fight and put on the same kind of performance he put on the last fight. Went in there, worked, good counter puncher, put on a good performance every time. And we all know about Adrien Broner. We've seen him at his best when he looks like an unstoppable force of nature, when he looks like maybe the best athlete in the boxing ring, period. And then we've seen the other side of Adrien Broner where he looks like a deer in headlights, just standing there with his hands up, taking a beating. So the question really going into this fight was, which Adrien Broner were we going to get? Well, for whatever reason, we got an Adrien Broner who looked like he was in shape, made weight, looked and sounded like he was focused. And then when the bell rang, it wasn't Adrien Broner. The Adrien Broner I'm used to seeing, the guy that I started to follow and thought was a really amazing talent on his way up, was a fighter who came forward, put his punches together in combinations, and broke guys down. Used his athletic ability and his quick reflexes to stay in range, but always just an inch away from his opponents, where he could still tag you up and then get out of the way of your shots at the last second. This Adrien Broner, for some reason, spent like the first 7 rounds running from Mikey Garcia. It was absolutely amazing to me. Like, he literally handed away the first half of the fight. I didn't understand what he was doing. It was like he wasn't even trying to win the fight. And then late in the fight, he finally starts walking forward, and it looks like he's trying to put the pressure on, but all he's doing is this. He's walking forward, hands up, and letting Mikey swing away, and then when Mikey finally stops swinging, then he tries to put a couple shots together. Doesn't work that way. It's boxing. It's a combat sport. You're going to have to exchange with guys every once in a while. And it's not until the 11th and 12th rounds that he really just lets it all go and starts exchanging with Mikey. Landed a few good shots, but it was definitely too little too late. He knew it once the bell sounded in the 12th. He knew he had lost the fight. And it's, for Adrien Broner, it's a real problem right now. And after the fight, he's interviewed, and he says, at the end of the day, I'm still AB. I'm still about billions. I'm still the can man. Anyone can. And everybody in this place will still pay to see me fight. Why do you think that, Adrien? You just lost to Mikey Garcia via unanimous decision in a clear-cut loss. Okay? You've lost to Garcia now. You've lost to Sean Porter. You've lost to Marcos Maidana. I might be missing one here. But you've lost to 3 guys that are considered top-tier fighters. Your best win was against Paulie Malignaggi on the tail end of his career, when Paulie was heading towards retirement anyways. You haven't produced when it's mattered the most. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, he's a 4-time world champion, 4 different weight classes, you know? That's something that few boxers have ever done. Congratulations. That doesn't solidify your name. He said at the end of the day, his name will be in the record books, and he's going to have a bronze statue, saying basically he's going to be in the Boxing Hall of Fame one day. Winning world titles these days does not make you a world-class fighter anymore. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. There's so many titles out there that guys get for the dumbest reasons in the world, that you can win a world title and have not fought the best in the division. That's just the way it works these days, plain and simple. So to say that that alone solidifies your spot makes it sound like, to me, like you're not hungry anymore to be great. And that's why we're getting these performances. Other fighters will tell you. Andre Ward has personally said that Adrien Broner is probably the most talented fighter he's ever seen. And yet, for some reason, we keep getting these Adrien Broner performances. Listen, I understand you want to create your persona and you want to emulate Floyd Mayweather in a lot of ways. The way, you know, like, he don't care if the fans like him or not. It's true. Floyd Mayweather is not one of the most liked fighters of all time. His style aggravated the hell out of a lot of fans. But there's one difference between you and Floyd. Floyd won the big fights, which made fans want to see the next big fight because they hoped it would be the fighter that finally beat him. But Floyd kept winning those big fights. So Floyd earned the right to say he's great and he's a Hall of Famer and he's one of the best ever. He earned the right to say those things, whether you agree with them or not. Adrien Broner has not earned that right because he has not won those big fights. He has choked when it has been his time to win those big fights. So instead of being about billions, you said you were about boxing going into this match. It's not what I saw. Okay? Mikey Garcia and his team, congratulations, all the credit. Mikey went out there, and regardless of what Adrien was doing, Mikey came forward, he let his hands go, he went to work. Plain and simple. Big win for Mikey Garcia. We'll have to see what's next. You know, there's possibilities of a matchup with, you know, the likes of Lomachenko, or maybe Terrence Crawford at 140, or maybe he goes up to 147, depending on, he just wants big fights, you know? And that's what you want to see in a guy that we all think has the talent to do something special. We want to see them go out there and test that talent. That's what we wanted to see from Adrien. And, you know, now, I don't know if Adrien Broner realizes it, but you have officially become the stepping stone. You look at what has happened to Adrien Broner, okay? First it was Maidana. You lost to Maidana and set Maidana up for his biggest payday ever against Floyd Mayweather. You lost to Sean Porter and set Sean Porter up for his biggest payday ever against Keith Thurman. Now you go and lose to Mikey Garcia, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mikey's next fight is a huge fight on pay-per-view with another top fighter. All these opportunities that are supposed to be yours, you're just throwing them away and giving them to other fighters because you refuse to acknowledge what we all already know, that you are not maximizing your full talent, plain and simple. Now, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's your personal life. I know one thing. I think you should definitely change teams at this point. The guys around you, while I know it worked, 4 world titles, different weight classes, all that stuff, great. Obviously something's broke right now. And I think Adrien needs somebody who hasn't been with him all these years, who's not just a yes man and says, oh yeah, Adrien, that's going to work. Oh yeah, Adrien, you look great. Oh yeah, Adrien, keep doing what you're doing. No, he needs somebody who's going to grab him and say, listen, maybe instead of all the other bullshit, we should get to work and get you back to being a world-class fighter, because right now you're not. Right now you are the biggest stepping stone in the sport of boxing. And it's sad that you've turned into that, because you are a very talented fighter, but talent can only take you so far. We've seen it plenty of times where talented guys who look like they should be the next big thing turn into nothing. And that's what you're turning into. This loss against Garcia could absolutely ruin his career, because now the next fight he has will most likely be against some nobody fighter, right? Because that seems to be his pattern. He loses to a big name guy, then he goes and finds some other guy who's ranked but not a big name fighter, and he'll go out and get the win. But the question is that going to convince anyone that you belong back in there with a top tier fighter? However, there probably will be another top tier fighter that'll take you on, because to them, you're an easy notch on their belt. You're an easy big name to put on their resume to catapult them to the next level of their careers. Congratulations, Adrien. You have officially become boxing's handmade step-up bitch. I can't believe this is where we are. But your comparisons to any other fighter at this point are a joke. So, where do we go from here? Where does Adrien Broner go from here? Who the hell knows? And to be honest with you, I don't care anymore. I really don't give a fuck. I'm done with the Adrien Broner saga. Mikey Garcia, I'm very interested to see where he goes from here. Personally, this fight was at 140. I'd love to see him and Terrence Crawford. Crawford is the cream of the crop in my opinion. He's a problem for any fighter in the world out there. And I'd give him the edge over 90% of the fighters in his general weight vicinity at this point. Him and Mikey would be a hell of a fight in my opinion. We'll have to wait and see what happens, you know. It could be the fight, if they make it, that the two of them use to decide who's going to be the king and move on up to 147 and start challenging those guys. All I know is Mikey Garcia's future is looking real bright. Adrien Broner's not looking all that fucking good right now. You keep saying you're about billions. You'll be lucky to make a couple hundred. You keep going the way you're going right now. Get your game up. Get back on top. Get back to fucking work. You can say what you want about Floyd Mayweather and people don't like him or whatever. But Floyd's mantra, the thing he has always said, hard work, dedication. Hard work, dedication. He puts the work in the gym. He says the hard work's in the gym. When he gets in the ring, that's the easy work. Because he makes it the easy work by putting the work in the gym. You want to emulate Floyd, showing off money, all these other things. Start emulating his work ethic, and maybe you can get back to being as good as you once were. But right now, you have become the joke of boxing. And you know it. And it should piss you off. But instead, you're just playing up to it. So I don't know about you boxing fans out there, but me personally, I'm done with Adrien Broner. I'm not going to believe any more of the hype. If he does get another big fight signed on, I'm not going to give two shits about it. I'll do a video on it or whatever, but it'll be all about the other guy. Because at this point, until he shows me something different, Adrien Broner is the joke of boxing. That's pretty much it for this edition of Inside the Ropes. For those who do view these, thank you so much. I'll keep trying to report unbiasedly. For any other out there who make videos about boxing, MMA, whatever, I've seen these live debates between different guys going back and forth on their take about certain fighters. I'm more than willing to debate anybody in the boxing world. I'm confident in my knowledge about the sweet science, and I love to bounce ideas back and forth with anyone out there. Till the next time, boxing fans, MMA fans, combat sports fans, whatever the hell you want to call it, Thank you all for tuning in. Have a good night. Inside the ropes.